The Stuck-Up Wolf is the third Famous Studios Fractured Fables cartoon that I've watched. I didn't like the first one, I didn't mind the second one, and for the most part, I really didn't like this one. But there is something that happens that I actually thought was pretty clever, so I will mention that in a little bit with a spoiler warning. This was released in 1967. It's directed by Chuck Harriton and Al Eugster and written by Shamus Culhane. And I don't know who narrates it, but it's either narrated by a child or it's narrated by an adult who does a great job at a child's voice. And while I don't have a problem with a child narrating it, it's kind of the whole point, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I kind of didn't love the sound of the narration. I just found it to be a little bit irritating. And this is a different experience to the first Fractured Fables that I watched, which was also narrated by a child, and that was actually kind of pleasant. It was kind of sweet to listen to, but this one was actually just a little bit irritating, so I didn't love that. The animation style I do not like. The narrative, for the most part, was fine but not interesting, but then something did happen. It's a child narrating their version of Red Riding Hood, although they refer to it as Red Robin Hood, which in itself is exceptionally annoying because it felt unnecessary. And we'd see the character going off to visit Grandma, but with a lot of contemporary twists, or contemporary at the time, and it is creative. I didn't enjoy it, but I can definitely say that it's very creative. It's the kind of story I can imagine a child coming up with. So if that's something you're interested in, if you think that that might actually appeal to you, then it might work well. But I just found it to be either not interesting or irritating. It was not irritating all of the way through, but there certainly were bits. And as I said, I didn't like listening to the narration very much, and I didn't like the animation style. Usually I love watching versions of classic stories that are a little bit different because I like to see the creativity and the twists on the story, but this one for me is just not that great. I think it might appeal to some people if this is what you're looking for, but for me personally, I really did not like this, and I have a feeling, and I haven't looked ahead, but I have a feeling there will be some other Fractured Fables like this, and I will approach each one with an open mind. I will give each one a chance, but unfortunately, the Stuck-Up Wolf 99% did not work for me. But I will now mention the one thing that I didn't see it coming, and once it happened, I actually thought, yeah, that's kind of clever. So this is a big spoiler for something that happens towards the end. And on the journey there, Little Red Riding Hood, or Little Red Robin Hood, had got some bubblegum. And this happened a little earlier on, so it didn't just come out of nowhere, which I really appreciate. And the character meets the wolf, thinking it's Granny, but realising very quickly it isn't, and they decide to trick the wolf by saying, I can blow a bigger bubble than you, and they blow a bubble with their bubble gum, and then they give some to the wolf, and the wolf blows this tremendous bubble, and he blows it so big that it pops, and then he becomes encased in this bubble, and he can't get out, and he gets stuck to the ceiling. I thought it was kind of clever. I thought it worked well, and again, it's definitely something I can see a child doing. I can absolutely see a child writing a story with that kind of conclusion. So I thought, I appreciated that. I thought it was well done. The journey to get to that point was not great, and I didn't really enjoy listening to it. It wasn't so much the sound of the narration, really, it was more the way the story was told. For example, the child kept, or whoever is doing the narration, would occasionally fluff their lines and make mistakes, which is very natural, and if that's what they're going for, it worked very well. But it didn't mean it was a pleasant experience to listen to. So, didn't love this at all. Don't really recommend it unless it sounds like your kind of thing. But the Stuck-Up Wolf, for me, definitely wasn't very good.